Yeah, it is another episode of the Autumn Windbags. RJ Clifford, Juan Soto. Let's have some fun today. Pardon the mess in the back. Moving. Final show that will be done in the Long Beach house. Will be in studio or at the new place. So, pardon the mess. You see little guys with hard hats walking around behind me. Currently under construction. A lot of stuff went down since we last talked. Tom Telesco has now been hired as the general manager of the Las Vegas Raiders. On Wednesday, him and Antonio Pierce did a presser on all those things. As soon as the news was announced, Soto did a video on that. Check it out if you haven't seen it for the immediate reaction. But there's been some moving parts since then. For those who didn't see the video, Soto, what was your big general takeaway from the hiring of Tom Telesco?
I just felt a lot of cohesion. Mm-hmm. I felt a lot of everyone being on board. I felt a lot of I felt the absence of nepotism. I didn't see any. I didn't get the sense of any puppet strings or anything like that. Maybe we've got like with the Mayock Gruden and with McDaniels Ziegler. Like I didn't get that. I got a lot of confidence. I got a lot of the feeling of confidence that each person is willing to do the best that they can do for their part solely on their own. They're not looking for the validation, or they're not looking for the approval of others. They're looking to do the best job they can do in their role solely for the satisfaction and for the drive of being the best at what they're doing, not to look at for anyone outside approval.
Yeah, I like the hire. Obviously, he was with the Colts for a while when the Colts were, cranking out some pretty good rosters. He was most recently with the Chargers. I thought the Chargers put together. I thought he drafted well. The Chargers have always had good players. They just can't coach their way out of a paper bag. Staley was so bad he ruined it for Telesco and company. So I think he's got a lot of experience. That was the other big thing for me. The biggest thing was Antonio Pierce, new head coach. Awesome. Love what he's doing. Very inexperienced. Even the biggest AP fans are like, yeah that's going, he's going to be learning on the job, which you should be learning that in the Division III college head coaching circles. Like that's where you should be learning on the job to be a head coach, not in the NFL. But things don't always work out perfectly that way. And that's why I love Telesco with AP. I like Champ. It sounds like there's a good chance we can keep Champ. He got one GM interview. Someone just kind of kicked the tires on him. We'll probably keep him, which sounds like the best of all worlds. We can keep Champ. He can keep developing. He can still be an asset. Tom Telesco is going to be the guy in charge of 100% of the personnel. And I love experience going with the passion of AP. I think AP, having a rookie head coach and a rookie GM.
Recipe for disaster.
Yeah, experience matters big time.
Champ has revamped our scouting department. Mm-hmm. How we do it, who does it, how scouts are dispersed across the country, reporting, all that stuff. He's redone all that. Mm-hmm. That's all Champ. If the team of Telesco as the GM, the negotiating type of guy, right? The guy that gets the door open, right? Mm-hmm. You have Champ organizing, getting the information, siphoning that information, funneling it up to the decision makers, and then what's his name? Downs, mm-hmm. the money guy, the cap guy. You have Downs as the cap guy, which is one of the smartest guys. I think his last name is Downs.
Which is ironic. He's really smart with his last name.
He's really smart. Yeah, you're really smart. Let's see. Idiot is here. So you put that team together, and I understand some of the nerves when it comes to Telesco. As good as the roster's been, the Chargers haven't been in title contention and this and that. But like you said, it's not just a GM that makes a team win. Like AP was saying today at the press conference, it's a full team effort from the people that work in the buildings to the people that work in food services to the coaches to the people that handle the coaches' families. All that stuff matters. So when you take a look at that, I am of the opinion that there is a reason why certain teams have a lot of issues with injuries. Mm-hmm. It's because, and go ahead and check on the Chargers, how they fared from when the players voted on facilities and stuff like that. I can guarantee you their rehab facilities, their actual workout facilities themselves aren't, the playing field, yeah, great, right? But they're doing spring training in Costa Mesa at a high school, right?
Yeah.
Their facilities aren't top notch. Okay, that adds to, and their facilities back when they were in San Diego were horrid. Okay, so you take all that into account. That leads to people not being ready physically to perform in the NFL and getting hurt more often. So I wouldn't necessarily put the tag on, Telesco hires great guys, but they'll always get hurt. Well, if that's more of an organizational thing, because no one's saying that about John Harbaugh. No one's saying it about John Harbaugh, and he gets players hurt all the time. A lot of players. Like last year, he's on his 8th string running back. He had no receivers because everyone was getting hurt. The reason why he drafts so many linemen is because his defensive linemen always get hurt. So no one will say it. So it all depends on your perspective as far as that goes. As far as drafting, Telesco has been far and above. If we had Telesco drafting at our position for our team over the years, we would be in a much better position than when we are now, because we would have not had all those misses that Telesco's had wins.
In 2021, Telesco drafted Rashawn Slater, Asante Samuel, Justin Herbert before that, Derwin James before that, Mike Williams, Hunter Henry, Joey Bosa, Denzel Perryman, Melvin Gordon, Jason Vera, Keenan Allen. I'm putting up some of his high-profile pickups. Fantastic drafter, which is why I don't understand people that don't like this. I get it if you're like, I was super hell-bent on Jim Harbaugh and he was going to be his own Jim. Like, okay, I guess if I squint my eyes, I can see your point where it's like, well, if we got him, we can't get Harbaugh. Okay. But for hiring a general manager, his experience, his reputation, his results, it's
his connections.
The only reason he was free is because Brandon Staley sucks so bad that he made everyone around him stink. You know what I mean? Like, Telesco wasn't fired because he was doing a bad job. Like, look, and he's missed, right? There's no GM that's perfect. There's no one that drafts that's perfect, right? There's no guy that's free agency perfect. The J.C. Jackson overpaying him, like, that was giant swing.
Jerry Tillery, like, they happen, man.
There's misses. There's plenty of misses, right?
Well, we know.
We know, right? But the hits drastically outweigh the strikes with Telesco. And he's got the experience. He's been all over the place. This is such a good hire. And on top of that, we're not alienating other people. Like, hopefully we'll keep Champ. We still have our cap guy. Like, this is great news. This is great news.
I want to touch on this. The Chargers didn't have the scouting department that the Raiders do. Mm-hmm. That's when days 2 and 3 really kick in. Or really day 3, right? Because it goes 1, 2, 3, then 4, 5, 6, 7, right? That's when the third day really kicks in. So we're like, he can't draft late in rounds. He doesn't have a deep team. Wait a second. The Chargers have been deep up until maybe a couple of years ago when they went for it all. When they said, you know what, we're in this window now where
rightfully so.
Justin Herbert is going to exit his rookie contract. We're going to have to pay him soon. Let's go for it. They went for it. It didn't work. Now they're in cap hell because guess what? Justin Herbert's making all that money.
It didn't work because Brandon Staley, not because of the team, right?
Telesco did his job. Yeah, it didn't work not because they didn't have the talent. It didn't work because the coaching and I'll tell you something right now. A GM can only do so much when you have those meddling kids. So he had a lot of constraints, beating Telesco, pronouns pal. He had a lot of restraints that he's not going to have working here with the Raiders. And he's going to have a lot more resources that he didn't have working at the Chargers. You have to take a look at the positives and how this is what forecasting is. Forecasting is taking a look at somebody's positives, taking a look at the negatives and why they were negative. Mm-hmm. And how your situation is going to make it better, where you can take advantage of his positives and help out with the negatives. We have a much better scouting department for those late round pickups. We have a much better personnel team to do that. We have an excellent cap person to make sure we're getting under the cap, make sure we're using our money wisely, right? And we have Telesco, who's someone who has been shown to be a good drafter, especially early in drafts. And if you're going to win, guys, there's these guys here. There's the Brock Purdy's of the world. There's the Maxx Crosby's of the world. And the reason why they're so revered is because of where they were picked and because it doesn't happen that often, right? More often than not, your stars come from your first 3 rounds. Now, you fill out your back end with the undrafted free agent, which they did really well. I think Eckler was an undrafted free agent, right? Mm-hmm. You get all these different guys that undrafted free agents. That's great. That's great. But the reason, if you don't hit on your early round picks, it cripples you because it's guaranteed money, it's big money against the cap, and it's draft capital that's not being used to your advantage on the field if they can't play. Think like Cleveland Farrell. We owed him or freaking Alex Leatherwood. We owed him so much money, even though we traded him or we released him, because he had that contract. And that's what happens when you miss on early round picks. He doesn't really miss on early round picks. He does because everybody does. But by and large, he's made really smart moves and smart picks.
He was asked during the presser today, we're talking Wednesday night, why did you pick the Raiders? Because make no mistake, he was highly sought. Like this was a get. Like people were looking to get Telesco, and the Raiders landed him. And he was asked, well, why here?
I grew up as a kid. I was obviously a football fan, NFL fan, been in the league a long time. To be a chance to be part of an organization with the Al Davis legacy, it's so exciting to have. And then on top of that, I mean, you look at the resources that are here, and the head coach that's here. I think we can win. That's why I want to be here. There's 2 things I was really looking for. 1 was fit. I want to work with people that I like, and 2, I want to win. And those 2 both go together, that we can win and work together and really enjoy this journey. Because it's a tough journey. I mean, it's a hard job. We all know the pressures that come with the job. But we can work side by side with a smile on our face and get things done. So there was, 2 things, find the right fit and a chance to win. And that's what they have here.
So this reminds me a little bit of Mick Ziegler 2 seasons ago when they came on. What were we saying? Oh, you're taking over a 10-win team, a playoff team, franchise quarterback, Pro Bowlers. Like, you need to win. Like, you don't have excuses. Normally when a new head coach and GM comes in, it's a dumpster fire. You're in cap hell. You don't have your draft picks. Like, they had everything, all their draft capital. Good. There was some dead cap, but mostly in really good situation. Franchise quarterback, Pro Bowlers, and they still screwed it up because they were so awful. This is very similar. The Raiders are 8-9. Pro Bowlers on both sides of the ball, a defense that came out of nowhere and is successful, great weapons, an O-line that overperformed. Telesco came here because he wanted to. I'm sure Mark Davis paid him off, right? Give him some of that Vegas money. Those PSLs are expensive for a reason. But I think he's also like, all right, I want to go someplace where I can look good. I want to go someplace where I can be for a while and win. And that's why he chose the Raiders. No excuses. No excuses. You're not taking over, you're not taking over the Jets. You're not taking, you know what I mean? You're not taking over a franchise that's in shambles. You're taking over a franchise that's heading in the right direction.
And I think that's part of the overall package that was so alluring to him, is there were stars on the team. Mm-hmm. And anything that he comes to add to the team, it's almost like I wouldn't even call it a lateral move going from the Chargers to the Raiders. I think we're set up to have a much better future if we get right what he's been known to get right. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something we can touch on right now. But I think we both feel like that's why he was brought in.
There's also one other very big reason why I think Tom Telesco was brought in. Now, he was brought in because he's right for the job, experience, track record of putting together great rosters. People enjoy working with him, right? You talk about, you talk to the analysts and talking heads and people that know him all have like good things to say about him. But is there one specific thing on why he was brought in? Is there one guy, one position, one reason specifically on why he was brought in? JT the Brick thinks so. So this is from his show. Let me get this set up. Great setup, RJ. Boom, 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 boom. JT the Brick said, clearly trading up to get a quarterback, it's going to have to be aggressive. The Raiders are going to have to give up a lot, wink, wink. That's why I think the GM who was announced, whoever it is going to have a plan to go get that quarterback. That's a nice little secret I just gave you. I think it's very accurate. Whoever the GM is going to be probably to prove in several interviews he has the ability to go get a quarterback in the first round. The Raiders are without the number one thing you need to win in this league, a number one franchise quarterback, right? That is number one priority for any team that doesn't have one is to get one. He has a great track record with quarterbacks, right? Drafted Justin Herbert, giant win. He came into the Chargers when they had Phillip Rivers, but he's been around Phillip Rivers. He's been around Peyton Manning in his times in Indy. He has a really good track record of getting quarterbacks. Here is Daniel Jeremiah. He's a analyst for NFL, and he's also the Chargers play-by-play guy. He was asked, what do you think of Tom Telesco?
Well, first of all, he's been able to identify the most important position, which is the quarterback position. Now, when he got to the Chargers, Phillip Rivers was in place. But then, every year doing your homework on quarterbacks and try and find that next guy. And, you kind of look where the Raiders are positioned right now. Aiden O'Connell did some nice things last year. He's going to have to decide, is this where you want to move forward here? Or do you want to try and identify somebody potentially in the draft or free agency? But from his time around Peyton Manning with the Colts to his time around Phillip Rivers and then Justin Herbert, he knows what it looks like to find, that right quarterback.
It looks like Aiden O'Connell is going to be a backup moving forward. I think Tom Telesco was brought in to be aggressive and make a move to get a number one quarterback.
When you're coming into a team like this, what do you need to win, right? You need to have
cojones.
You need to have a defense that performs at a high level. You need to have that. Mm-hmm. We have that. We've shown we can be the best defense in the league over a long stretch of half a season.
Yep.
More. We've shown that we can do that. Okay, there's that. You need to have weapons offensively. We have that. We need to be able to run the ball when we want to. We've shown we can do that. We need to have good sound special teams. We have that.
Way above sound.
We need to have good coaching. I believe we have that. Offensive coordinator, we'll see, but we have a lot of that stuff in place. The last piece of the puzzle is getting that quarterback. I do not mind spending what it takes to move up to get the guy. And this is what I've been trying to tell you in the past. I don't mind spending that money if you're going to go for the guy that's going to complete the puzzle. Because going for it when you have the chance to do it, when are we going to have this defense? When are you going to have these weapons? When are you going to have all these things set in place to need that one piece? When you're one piece away, you go get that one piece. And Tom Telesco, he has the experience, he has the connections, he has the savvy to make it happen. I don't know that Mayock and Gruden had that. I know for a fact that JMD and Ziegler didn't have it when they tried to move up to number one. Because in hindsight, if they wanted CJ Stroud and we gave up 2 1s and 2 2s to get up there, I think that would have been a pretty good deal for us.
Mm-hmm.
If we would have had CJ Stroud in the mix without our first and second round picks last year, Mayer didn't really do too much last year. Wilson didn't do too much last year. If we and this next year coming up, we already have our quarterback. We have everything set in place. Davante and Jacoby Meyer. they're in their positions already. The offensive line could use some tweaking. We can figure that out. We got a running back of the future. We don't have to pay big money for a running back. We got money to spend because our quarterback's on a rookie deal. Like all that stuff is already set in place. If we had Telesco last year to do what we wanted to do to go up and get CJ Stroud, I think we'd have all been okay with giving up 2 1s and 2 2s.
If we got Stroud, right? Like that was,
That was the guy.
Yeah, that's the guy. I mean, the other one's not so much. So but that's the thing, right? Like I know you're doing backflips with this hire, hearing that news because you want to be aggressive and get that quarterback. I want to be aggressive and get a quarterback. I'm a little less spendy with you. I still want value, right? Like I don't want to, give up like 3 1s and like a max or something to get exactly who we want. I know you don't either, but we're on 82% the same page. I'm just a little bit more of a value guy because I feel like the draft is much bigger of a dice roll than people give it credit for. But Telesco does have a knack of being a good drafter and most importantly, identifying quality quarterbacks. So if there is a GM where it's like, he's really tearing apart the next few drafts here to get this guy, I hope he works out. He's one of the guys where I'm like, I'll put down the pitchfork and torch and hope it pans out. Because he's proven he's been that guy.
I don't know that we have to get to number 1 to get a guy that we're going to be comfortable with. Because seeing that AP and Jaden Daniels have a connection, I believe he will be there at 3. If we want to move up to 1, because the Bears can then jump back in, right? The Bears are going to, okay, I'll give you 13 and our other first round pick that we have, whatever the hell it was, 9 or something like that, to get to number 2. Okay, that sounds great. Let's do that. Or get to number 3 with Arizona. I think they'll do that. Mm-hmm. So just because the Bears move out doesn't mean they can't move back up and get a quarterback if they want to. So I don't know that the Patriots are going to move out of who has 2? Washington, right?
Yep.
And so it goes Bears, Washington, Patriots, Pats. No, I think it's is it Pats then Cardinals?
Hold on. Draft order. Roger, checking. Chicago, Washington, New England, Arizona.
Yeah, so our best bet is to jump into Chicago because Chicago can then jump back in and still get a quarterback if they want one. But if they're going to get Justin Fields or whatever, maybe the guy's Justin Fields. Who knows? But to jump in, our best bet is at 1, and depending on what 2 and 3 do, then 4. Because Chargers aren't taking a quarterback, and 6 is the wild card. Who knows what the hell they're going to do? But 7 has their quarterback. 8 probably would take one if they're available.
Even then, though, like if Jaden Daniels is available at 5, the Chargers are trading that 5th pick because someone's showing up with something girthy. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
we might need a top 3 pick to get one of the 3 guys we really want. Honestly,
and that's what I'm saying is if we can't go to 1, depending on what 2 and 3 do. Because I'm of the opinion that, Mac Jones isn't as bad as he's been showing the last few years because he's had some pretty bad coaches the last couple of years. And, he was able to do well with freaking Josh McDaniels, dude. So it's like, how bad can he be? Mm-hmm. Look at what he's done to our quarterback. So if the coaching staff feels confident that they can right the ship with Mac Jones, I don't necessarily feel like they're going to go with, because they got a lot of needs on that team, man, a lot. And they need, I can see them going for Marvin Harrison Jr. because they have a extreme lack of talent on the outside on that team. Yeah. And he's used to playing in the elements because it's no picnic playing in November and December in Ohio. It's the horseshoes outdoors, man. So it's not a given that 1, 2, and 3 are going to go quarterback. And if that doesn't happen, there's the opportunity for us to move in there. I think a lot of people are saying, oh, well, the quarterback's going to go 1, 2, 3. Well, that may be true, but it may not be Chicago, Washington, and New England picking 1, 2, 3.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're going to do that, or we're going to be even in the running to do that, Telesco is an excellent person who has connections, who has experience, who has the savvy to get up and get us into those positions.
I just want a wheeler and dealer, man. Like McDaniels didn't do it, Mayock didn't do it. They were just kind of like.
Well, to Mayock's credit, he tried. He was just really bad at it.
Well, that's even worse. You know what I mean? Now you're like showing your cards and unable to pull it off.
6 picks in the first 100. That's terrible.
And
look,
give me
for
a
those
who,
who for those of you who didn't hear my draft coverage last year, 1 and 10, between 1 and 10, those are like the elite of the elite, right? Those are the elite of the elite prospects. Numbers 1, 2, 3, 10. Mm-hmm. 11 to like 50, it's pretty much what's your flavor.
Yeah.
Okay. 50 to like 125-ish. After 125, you can go 126 or you can go in the 7th round. It all depends on what you're looking for, and what scares teams off.
Mm-hmm.
So those first 3 rounds ish, first 100 and 120-ish picks, those are the ones that are like looked at as like, ooh, those are coveted picks. You know, people say first 100. I think in this draft it may be like the first 80. I don't think this draft is going to be very deep into the later rounds. Mm-hmm. There's a couple of reasons for that. There's NIL. And NIL is not going to affect like the top picks from going in, but it's for sure going to affect the days 2 and 3 picks from coming out, right?
Yeah.
And also this is the last year of the COVID extension, right? So no more COVID years.
7th year seniors.
Yeah, we're not going to see that anymore. So, this draft may be a little light after pick 100, right? Mm-hmm. So normally, for Mayock to get 6 picks in the top 100 or whatever in that draft and get nothing for it, I don't think that's going to happen to us again.
Better not. Telesco's got too much going for him. So that's if we go draft-wise for a quarterback. There's a good chance the Raiders don't go draft for a quarterback. There's some quarterbacks out there that are going to be available. Like there, especially when you've got a defensive-minded coach, and I think it's going to be like a defensive-minded staff. Antonio Pierce is like, he kind of jokes like, "What are you expecting out of offensive coordinators? Like 24 points a game." Like he was only half joking because he
wasn't joking at all.
As a defensive guy, you're like, we're going to run the ball. We're going to hold guys to nothing. We just need to get 24 points. We'll win every game, right? Like that.
If we would have scored 24 points, we would have what was it 12 and 5 or something like that? 13 and 4 or something like that.
We would have done great. And that's I'm exaggerating. Clearly, a head coach wants to score as many points as possible. He's going to want a great offensive coordinator and all that kind of stuff. But there is that mentality too. It's like, let's just focus on the D. Our offense just needs to take care of the ball. There will be a lot of quarterbacks available, and one of them is very available. Jeremy Fowler of ESPN talked to one NFC executive about Russell Wilson. And as I'm saying here, Fowler is saying, as we outlined previously, Atlanta, Tampa Bay, Minnesota, Pittsburgh are among the teams on the radar, but one NFC executive sees another outlet. The Raiders need a vet, and they are one of Wilson's original teams he wanted to go to. Remember that wish list back in 2021. He'd stay in the AFC West Coast, and Wilson's wife, Ciara, can do a Las Vegas residency as a live performer. In fact, the Raiders are the only team from that wish list that has a quarterback need. Rookie Aiden O'Connell performed admirably, but coach Antonio Pierce will be in a win-now mode after earning the job on the basis of a 5-4 interim stint. Russell Wilson of the Raiders makes an incredible amount of sense. Not in a, I love it, but in a, for trying to win now. Remember that contracts we don't have to pick up, right? He's probably be less inclined to want to ask for a lot of money because he's going to be sitting on $250 million and his wife's going to be making as much as him, if not more. He was a top 10 quarterback last season. Like people looked at Russell Wilson as like, whatever. It's like he was a legit top 10 quarterback. Well, it's not a superstar. He wasn't prime Russ, but he was a legit top 10 quarterback. Get him for going rate. Might be something Tom Telesco wants to do, Soto.
I'd have to really think about that, man. I have to really think about that. I don't know. One of the things that AP said when they were talking about offensive coordinators is that not everyone can be a Raider.
Yeah.
We need somebody to vibe with us. I don't know what Russ would do to our locker room, but I know it wouldn't be good. And I don't know that they're going to want to bring that in there. I've just heard too many stories of the entitlement of the kind of the false, emotion, false feeling, kind of just being fake. I don't know that's going to vibe with who we are and the team that we're bringing up. I don't know that us going back to the Raider way is going to be going to somebody who is obviously not genuine a large majority of the time.
And there's multiple ways to look at that. You make a good point. I would also say that because of a locker room that's so good, you can take risks on guys a little bit more. Like if it's already a crappy locker room and then you throw a Russell in there, it's going to get worse. But if it's a solid locker room, you can be like, okay, this guy's because you're right in the sense that like he's not like a.
It depends on the risk, man. I mean, Jack Jones was a risk because of his issues that he had, his behavioral issues. But that's when you embrace someone like that, that's when they can be a strong asset to your team. When you embrace somebody that's not genuine, you can't trust them. Like I don't know that he's going to be able to build that trust by who he's shown that he is, bad-mouthing his former players, bad-mouthing his former teammates, bad-mouthing his former coaches. I don't know that he's going to be able to move past that because he hasn't shown since then by what he did his first year with Denver and by how he acted after the whole thing went down with Peyton last year. I don't know that he's shown that he's even willing to change or he sees there would be a problem to change.
All issues. I'm not arguing against what you're saying. I'm saying I think with this, Antonio Pierce will not be bullied around. He's a fantastic leader of men. Locker room figures like Maxx Crosby, Josh Jacobs, Davante Adams. I think you can absorb a little bit of not perfect locker room juju if it's worth the risk. And because Russell Wilson's more like a passive aggressive fake as opposed to just like an Antonio Brown, right? Or just like a huge piece of shit, right? Like there's locker room guys that are giant assholes. And there's locker room guys, like you mentioned with Russell Wilson, just kind of like passive aggressive and fake. You don't really can't put your finger on them. You don't trust them.
It's a scale that it's really hard to gauge, especially when you don't know the particulars. From what we've seen, it can be as little as fake and passive aggressive, and it can be as severe as a sociopathic narcissist. We don't know for sure, but I mean, the behavior is there. We just don't know to what degree. And it didn't seem like that Denver team was, all that bummed out that Russell Wilson was benched, even with the year he was having. And those are the issues. When you have it, like we're talking, like you said, and you're right, a strong locker room can bring in someone that is maybe a character issue, but it depends on the character issue. And I don't know that not being genuine. And that's the thing is, what did Max say about, why did it turn around? Well, because we were able to be ourselves. Well, what if someone is never himself? What if someone is always showing you a front and it's obvious and he's been called out for it by multiple teams and multiple coaches in multiple locations? That's the issue that I have. And that's why I don't think that's going to be a good fit for us, not because of the character issue, but the type of character issue.
I'm not arguing that everything you're saying isn't true. But if we had Russell Wilson's production this season, we're a playoff team. I think
it would have been a lot. I think it would have given us a good probability to, but we don't know because we don't know what his effect on the rest of the locker room would have been and not how it affected that, how that would have affected the production.
Him with Josh McDaniels, different. We're having a completely different conversation. Him with Antonio Pierce in this locker room, I'm not saying it's the way to go. I'm not saying go get Russell Wilson. We can fix him. He's not going to hurt the locker room. I'm saying when you have a locker room this good, it gives you some flexibility to say like, okay, we'll absorb some of his weirdness and his standoffishness if we can keep his production. Because there's nothing special about that Denver locker room, and he produced. He obviously wasn't, his personality problems didn't torpedo their passing game, right? It still worked, even with him being whatever. So something to think about, something to follow. You made a really good point, though. I didn't even think about just like what's he going to do in the locker room, and that's like the shit you might have to eat to get production. But when you're going through your quarterback options, that's on the list. It's like, all right, you want Russ? Here's his pros. Here's his cons. Locker room issue is a con you got to address. 100%.
Not everyone can be a Raider, man. Now, look, I'll have to do some more digging into this, but if I remember correctly, Jim Plunkett had a little bit of a issue with teammates in San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was San Francisco, because he went New England, San Francisco, then Oakland, right?
Yep.
That was his path. I think it was that he had a little bit of an issue with teammates and little, entitlement type of thing. I'm not sure. I don't want to disparage the man. I think that was some of the issues that we had. So it would still be like a Raider. It wouldn't be setting Raider precedent. And the people on the guys on the team might just go out and say, you know what, Russ, you're a freaking weirdo, and we're cool with that. Just be a weirdo 100% of the time.
Just throw touchdowns.
Yeah.
That'd be more my thing. Like if I'm Davante Adams, like I don't have to be friends with you.
But it all depends. If he's more on the sociopathic narcissist end as opposed to the passive aggressive end, he may still be putting up a front when the guys are like, dude, we know who you are. Just be that person, and we're going to be good with you. And that's the issue that I have, is this team started to galvanize and become one and really push forward when they were able to let their hair down and be themselves. And you add someone who hasn't been themselves or accused of not being themselves and not being genuine. It's like a match in a trash can of gasoline.
If things go south, I can see that adding to the fire. But if he plays for the Raiders the way he played this season, I think it's a win. I think it's a win, even if it's kind of weird and no one really can put their finger on him. He's producing. I can easily see Davante Adams being like, I don't give a fuck what you're like. Get me the ball. And if you can do that, we're good. You know what I mean? Like I can see Davante being that way.
Yeah, because Davante is a special freaking cat, man. He's a special dude. I don't know that a lot of people are. Well, the team was brought together not because of Davante Adams, but because of everyone else coming together and upping their play. Davante's been Davante from the beginning. It's the other guys that developed. Maxx has been Maxx from the beginning. It's the other guys that were empowered, the other guys that were stepping up their game. And I think those other guys, the guys that maybe aren't as confident in their ability or confident in their production, would be the most affected by it. Yeah.
Well, the biggest news this week, college ranks are out one head coach. And in Los Angeles, just 23 miles from where we're sitting right now, there's a new boy back in town. The Chargers, according to Ian Rappaport, it's obviously been all over the place. The Chargers are moving to hire Michigan coach Jim Harbaugh as their new coach. In town for a second interview on Tuesday. He's not expected to leave. Finally, the former 49ers coach is back in the NFL. Jim Harbaugh, not a Raider. He's a Charger. My first reaction was, God damn it. Because like we've talked about earlier on the show, the Chargers are great at putting out quality rosters. They continually put out good players. Their coaching has just been atrocious. I texted my buddy who's a Raider fan that I work with, and I was like, I'm just most worried that he will uncharger the Chargers. Just can't get out of their own way, always baffling things up. If there's a coach that can uncharger the Chargers, it's someone built like Jim Harbaugh.
The difference that we're seeing here is when he took over the 49ers, they were a extremely talented, young, deep team that was severely underproducing under Mike Singletary.
Mm-hmm.
And he took that team over, and he kind of did what AP did with the Raiders last year. He got them all on board. He got them on the program, and he turned them around fairly quickly. That's not the case with this Chargers team. They're not overly young. They're not overly deep.
They did underperform.
They did underperform, but they underperformed, and they're on the tail end of going for it.
Yeah,
they don't have the ability to just go all in anymore. They don't have the cap space. They don't have the draft capital. They don't have that to do that. So he's not in the same position as he was before. Though I am of a firm opinion that the only reason that Tom Telesco was fired, along with Brandon Staley, was because Spanos had it in his head that he was going to get Harbaugh right then and there. I'm going to get Harbaugh, and I'm going to give him everything he wants. And in order to have my hat in the ring, I need to have a nice empty space. This guy's been here for 10 years. Okay. Thank you very much. We don't need you anymore because you were useful while you were here, and we went for it. And I'm not going to say it was your fault or it wasn't your fault that we didn't get there, but we didn't get there. Now we got to start over anew. And they want to start over anew with a new head coach who had pretty much total control over everything. And you can't have that when you already have a GM.
So I want to expound on that. But first, there's like micro and there's macro, right? There's the very specific, like the situation they're in, the cap situation they're in, this very specific roster. And there's kind of a more, like our version of the Raider way. The Charger way is to be like really talented and then fuck it up. Just find a way to foul it up through bad coaching, bad ownership, bad luck, injuries, whatever. That's kind of been the
migraine headaches.
Just
what did LaDainian Tomlinson have in the championship game? He had a migraine. He couldn't play. He had his helmet with the visor on the entire day.
Yep.
They lost
something,
like in the
right?
playoffs. Yeah, it's always something.
And Jim Harbaugh is the antithesis of that. Just a hardcore, old school, hard ass, that type of guy that can whip a floundering team into shape. That's kind of, if I had to pick the one coach to uncharger the Chargers, it would be Jim Harbaugh. It would be like that kind of guy. So that sucks because I think he can pull that off. To your point, though, the timing's pretty bad in a lot of ways. There's talent there for sure. They have Justin Herbert and they have talent. However, they're $45 million over the cap, the Chargers currently, $24 million in dead cap. And I think it's like $180 million of their cap space is on 4 players. Khalil Mack, who's going to be 33 next season. Keenan Allen, who's going to be 32 next season. Joey Bosa is going to be 29 next season. And Mike Williams is going to be 29 next season. So 2 old guys and 2 getting out of their prime getting out of their primes guys. And you've got like half of your salary cap locked up with those 4 players. There's talent, but
180 isn't half, right? I think it's under 300 is the cap.
Yeah, it's like
2/3
or something like that, right? So they have some cap situations, and it's funny because I'm on a text chain with some people, and our friend, been on the show, Dan Helly's on it. He's like, they're gonna win right away, and everyone's in the locker room's gonna hate him in 36 months. That's sometimes been his MO, right? Like he overextends his welcome, not likable guy, gets results but not likable. We might luck out. Now, again, I still don't like him there. This still worries me. But we might luck out that by the time they get out of salary cap and old player hell, you might have already outstayed his welcome, right? Like instead of coming into a good situation, hey, we're winning, we'll put up with him. It's all right. We finally got these contracts off the books. We finally got a new crop of players, and now the mutiny's already begun. We might be okay, Soto. May not be doom and gloom.
That's honestly what the first thing I thought of is I looked at their cap situation and the age of their peripheral star players, and I mean, although a good quarterback can win you a lot, and they're a good eraser, they can't erase the ink. They can't erase Father Time. Is going to get us all, and if not, Khalil Mack had a nice year last year, but it wasn't like outside of the very extremely poor and misguided game plan to deal with him against the Raiders. He had a bang up awesome year. Outside of that,
yep.
He had a regular decent. Oh, he got 10, 11 sacks. Okay, cool. That's Unique Ngakoue gets that every year. Like outside of that one game, that was pretty much we're just handing him sacks. Joey Bosa can't stay healthy. Williams can't stay healthy. Keenan Allen can't stay healthy. Offensive line can't stay healthy. And Telesco got all those guys. Yeah, but Telesco's not running their rehab, their prehab, their practices, their facilities, their trainers. Like, he doesn't run all that.
He's rubbing them down in the sauna, but that's it.
Someone was using tire oil at the gym today, a lot of it.
That stinks.
And I'm like,
so
that's so nasty. It works great. And I said, whoever's using that, don't touch your face, like even after you wash your hands. Mm-hmm. It's gonna burn. Like, the skin on your face is not as hard and not as like used to it as like the skin on your legs or your lower back, stuff like that. And someone was using that tire oil. Oh my God, it was awful. Think of that stuff. Have you ever seen Revenge of the Nerds? That liquid heat that he had, that the trainer made. It's like that times 10.
So bad.
It smells. It's like, it just smells like humidity. It's just like, it just takes all the air out of you. But someone was using a lot of it today.
It smells like fermented cat piss. It's awful.
It's bad, dude. It's bad when you use it. And then when you get like the knockoff version, it's even worse. You get a tiger oil, like the tiger oil, like the tile oil, like, okay, that's not as bad. You get the like fake stuff, and oof,
brutal.
That's looking super nasty.
So they're in a tough situation cap wise. Hopefully Jim Harbaugh outstays his welcome. Look at the AFC West, dude. Andy Reid, Sean Peyton, Jim Harbaugh, all proven winners, Super Bowl champions, national champions. Antonio Pierce is the odd man out, right? The Raiders, once again, have kind of the odd man out. And I love him as a head coach. Glad we hired him. But he's a lot of proving to do. He's the odd man out of those four veterans, right? They're all like over 60. How old's Sean Payton? I know Jim Harbaugh is 60.
60s. He's got to be this around the same age.
He's also 60. Holy shit. Jim Harbaugh was born December 23rd, 1963. Sean Payton was born December 29th, 1963. Wow. Jim Harbaugh is just 6 days older than Sean Payton. Then Andy Reid is what, in Walrus years? He's 65, right? It's a bunch of old, experienced winners. And Antonio Pierce. He's got his work cut out for him. And that's the other part too, is right. Like, what's the biggest thing AP is going to potentially struggle with early? It's that end game chess match. I have the experience type stuff. Again, love Antonio Pierce as our head coach. Glad we got him. What he brings to the table as far as gusto and getting the players to play their best is absolutely worth it. But he's going to be outcoached in some divisional games. It's going to cost us. Just be prepared for that.
It's going to be tough, man. Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's go to Thomas Reynolds, 3590. Thank you so much for being a member. We appreciate you. I'm completely fine with this hire. Talking about Telesco. Really, either Dobbs, Kelly, and Tom Telesco, I was fine with any of the three. Which is interesting because that's a wide swath of guys. Like, you're fine with any of those three. Like, you're going with, like, Champ Kelly, which, okay, like, the least experienced, never been a GM before, but he was our guy. Tom Telesco, a ton of experience. But a Charger, and then Dobbs, like, those are three very different guys to bring in if you're happy with all three of them.
Well, I think what we were looking for is just someone who wasn't Ziegler,
It's like we're so happy with AP because he's not McDaniels that, like, the stink is so bad that everything smells better.
It's a very similar situation to Patrick Graham. just because we didn't, we hired so and so as coach doesn't mean, he's gone. He stuck around after both of them stuck around after McDaniels and Ziegler were fired because they were under contract to the Raiders. So Patrick Graham is still, the defensive coordinator of the Raiders. And it's getting close to that time where if you're going to make a move, you better make a move. And I haven't heard a lot of rumblings about PG getting, a lot of second interviews.
No news is good news on that front.
Yeah. So, I mean, Kelly, same thing. He only had one interview for GM. I think
that's part of it too. Mark Davis is like, look, I can keep Champ without making him GM. Like if I like him, let's just keep him as assistant and we'll get another one.
Pay him. Hey, this is how important you are to our and as far as if you're in that periphery role where you're not the GM and you're getting paid really well, you're almost like in a better position to stick around longer if you're like the head of talent scouting or something like that.
Yeah,
because you could be in that position. Look at Downs. Downs has survived how many different GMs and head coaches now? Like he's been there for quite some time.
Just be the nerd in the nerdery.
So if you're good at what you do, and you don't have to be the head because the heads get chopped off first. So I mean, it all depends on if he wants to be that GM, if he needs to have that title, or if he wants to make a really good living doing what he's doing and stick with the Raiders. Who knows?
Derek Harris, 1848. I'm worried about our core players being traded like Maxx. Think about it. What did Tella say in the interview to get the job?
Telesco. He's saying Tella.
Did he promise to get us in the top 3 in the draft? Listen, no billionaire likes to be told what to do. If we keep Champ, we could guess the moves we make. Telesco doesn't have a reputation for trading away his talent. He's great at building his homegrown talent. I don't know why you would think we'd trade away core players with Telesco. He doesn't have that reputation. I mean, look, he could do anything. He hasn't been a new GM after being a GM anywhere, right? Because his first true GM job was the Chargers. So who knows if he's like, I want to clean house. But he did say in the presser, he's like, look, he said specifically without being asked, like, I work with what I've got. I work with, he's not John Gruden, who's like, I'm going to build my team. He's like, yeah, this is what I got. I'm going to make the best ingredients that you're giving me.
He also said he's going to follow the vision of the coach, of the head coach. He's going to get the players that fits the coach's vision and style of play. So I don't know that there's necessarily guys that he's like, these are the guys you have to have. It's if this is the way you want to play, these are the guys you have to have. And I think that all the good cornerstone players on our team are the guys that fit the way we want to play.
Tino Raider 16. Antonio Pierce needs to make sure he sages that office before moving in. Yeah, I would hire a priest, maybe a witch doctor.
Just sacrifice a chicken in there or something.
Right? Is there a volcano we can throw a virgin into? Like whatever is necessary to get the bad juju out of that office?
In the Mexican like houses, if you're sick or you got the evil on you, just rub an egg on you, You just do that, rub the egg on it.
Get Terminex in there. Just like, wow, are there mosquitoes? Is it fleas? Is it termites? It's like, no, Josh McDaniels. He's like, okay, we have a special recipe for that.
You get that head shrinker from Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Go in there and just start sprinkling shit everywhere.
Whatever. Get every priest of every religion in there to get whatever Josh McDaniels brought in. Make sure AP doesn't get it. All right, that's it for us. Still waiting for offensive coordinator. We will let you know what happens there as that comes in. That's really the big news just for the Raiders moving forward. Head coach hired, GM hired. New safeties coach was brought in. There'll be some more offensive staff guys coming in. We'll dive into, the position room coaches a little bit. We don't dive into it too much, but if it's precedent, it's pertinent, we'll do it. But certainly offensive coordinator, when that happens, we'll be all over it. And we'll be following that story as we go along. But until then, knock on wood if you're with me. Hey, you made it to the end of our video. Great job. I know you want more. go ahead and click the next video. And if you're feeling crazy, go ahead and subscribe.